What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Razorback freshmen have reported and begin voluntary workouts today. We're going to get into some discussion on that. We're also going to talk about some other things going on with the Razorbacks, maybe some fun stuff. I've done my projected depth chart for week one. We'll get into some of that. We'll also talk about Arkansas secondary and how the talent has actually improved over the last few years. And we've got some special news we're going to share with you as well. All that and more on Hog Sports Live. Well, first, before we get started, I want to announce that we have a new team member at HawgSports.com. Curtis Wilkerson has joined us, and we're going to have Curtis, this is a picture right here, we're going to have Curtis join us here in a little bit and just kind of talk about his background, introduce himself to all you guys, and so you can get to know him. He's going to be a regular on the show, so we definitely want to get to know Curtis Wilkerson. I'm very excited about this hire process we started about 3 weeks ago. On the same note, we also want to wish Pete Roulier farewell and good luck in his next ventures. Pete is moving on from Hog Sports, so Pete has been with us for about 16, 17 months, I think. So always, of course, want to make sure that we wish people exiting Hog Sports farewell and good luck. But we are also excited to have Curtis Wilkerson joining us. So we'll get into that. Also, your questions coming up here in a little bit. And before we get started, of course, I want to remind you there's plenty of ways to watch and listen. You can always tune in on Facebook Live. Please follow the page if you haven't done so already. If you like the content, we're almost at 80,000 views. I'd like to get there before football season starts, which we're saying football is going to start despite everything going on right now. It doesn't make you a bad person to pray for football. Also available on YouTube. Be sure to hit the notifications bell so you're notified anytime we upload a new video after you subscribe to the channel, and also share the content if you think somebody else might like it. Of course, throw us a thumbs up if you like the content. Also available on Apple Podcasts. Be sure to throw us a 5-star review if you're listening there and you like the content, and available anywhere else you can think of to find your favorite podcast. Hog Sports is just $1 right now for your first month at HawgSports.com. No promo code or anything, just sign up and you will get the deal. Okay, now that that's out of the way, freshmen are finally on campus. So for football, that means 15 of them. 15 freshmen have finally enrolled, because you had some guys enroll early. This doesn't include transfers, but anybody who never enrolled in a college is joining right now. They all moved in on Monday. It's football and basketball. I thought the Arkansas official Twitter page had some good stuff from some of the parents, and I'll just read some of that to you. We chose Arkansas because of the family feel. When we met Coach Pittman, and it was just like we knew where Marcus needed to be, just by his ability to be comfortable right away. And it's just a great opportunity right now to build the program, Adrian Henderson, Marcus Henderson's mom, said. As you can tell, I'm a mom first, and I'm sending my big 6'5", 290-pound baby here to Arkansas, Alicia Curry, Ray Curry's mom, said. A day and a half with Coach Pittman sold me. I mean, he's very genuine. This is what we hear from a lot of people, a lot of parents. I need someone to fill the gap with me being 5 hours away, and Coach Pittman and his wife, I feel real good about it. And obviously, Janie's very involved with the football program. You could see that from the players at Georgia that were getting drafted and how she talked with them, how they talked to her. It's just about being around really good, caring people and playing great football, Bernard Johnson said. That's Kari Johnson's father, the cornerback out of Boston by way of the prep school in UConn. Kari wants to be a business student. Bud Walton School is great. Yes, it is. So combining academics, being able to play in the SEC is the best of both worlds. And you know he's in the right place because these are great people. So that's just a few things that some of the parents said on move-in day for the football team. As we know, you already had Miles Slusher, Darren Turner, Blaine Toll, Kellen Burrell, and Julius Coates, who's a junior college guy, already enrolled. So you had 15 other players. I guess I should say 14 other players, because Cottrell Wallace is not enrolling at Arkansas. So you had Malik Hornsby, Marcus Henderson, Jashad Stewart. Well, let's read up on these guys a little bit, I guess. Malik Hornsby, 4-star cornerback out of Marshall City, Texas. Fort Bend Marshall, Missouri City. number 200 ranked overall prospect in the country. Marcus Henderson out of Memphis University School, 6'5", 300-pound offensive lineman, another 4-star, 336 nationally. Jashad Stewart out of Jonesboro, Arkansas, 6'2", 223 edge guy, number 476 nationally. Andy Boykin out of Troup County, LaGrange, Georgia. Boykin just recently got cleared and okayed to go, so that was big news. I think a lot of schools backed off of him because they weren't sure if he would be eligible at Arkansas or wherever, but Arkansas got a steal here, 6'3", 301, number 524 nationally. I think he's probably undervalued. Jalen St. John out of Trinity Catholic in St. Louis, 6'5", 310, 564 nationally. Nick Turner out of New Orleans, brother Martin, 5'11", 177, real speedy safety here, 656 nationally. Ray Curry Jr. out of White Station in Memphis, 6'6", 315. Eric Thomas out of Booker T. Washington in Pensacola, Florida, a defensive end, 6'3", 230. Jaqueline McGee, 6'4", 255, strong side defensive end out of Peach County, Fort Valley, Georgia. Ja'Cory Turner out of Woodward Academy in Atlanta, Georgia, 6'2", 205. Dominique Johnson, running back out of Crowley, Texas, 6'1", 230. J.T. Towers out of Joe T. Robinson in Little Rock, linebacker, 6'4", 210. Colin Sutherland out of Flower Mound, Texas, 6'4.5", 224, tight end. And Kari Johnson out of Boston and Suffield Academy in Connecticut, 6 foot, 184 cornerback. So those are the guys who are enrolling for the football team. I should say they're moving into temporary dorms actually as of Friday, and today is the first day that those guys can work out. And that's something that wasn't an SEC policy. They could have come as early as June 8th, but Hunter Yurachek, Arkansas athletic director, kind of saw things like, we're putting a lot on these guys with all the new regulations and all this stuff, plus we have so many other people coming in. Let's stagger it a little bit. Let's bring the freshmen in later so it's easier to, I guess, manage that transition. And I will say this about freshmen. You always worry about homesickness, big changes like that, how they're going to react. Most react fine, but every once in a while they don't. And you don't want to lose a guy because his head's spinning a little bit. So I think that Yurachek made a good choice with the way that they did that. So this is also basketball players, and as we know, this is the highest ranked recruiting class that Arkansas has had in a long time. Number 8 on the 24/7 Sports composite. 24/7 Sports actually has Arkansas 7th overall, but the combining of all the rankings has them 8th. The last time Arkansas was in the top 25 was 2013 with Bobby Portis, who was the number 17 overall prospect in the country. He was a 5-star. Moses Kingsley, 49, and Dustin Thomas, number 136. And that group ranked 4th in the SEC, but those players were on a team in 2014-15 that finished 2nd in the SEC, got a 2 seed in the SEC tournament. I think they finished ranked 21st nationally that year. You have to go back to 2011, the transition year from John Pelfrey to Mike Anderson, to find a class ranked as high as Arkansas's when they brought in B.J. Young, who was a 5-star. Didn't necessarily live up to that. He was a good player, but didn't necessarily live up to that. You also had Aaron Ross, who never made it to campus, who was a 4-star, 104 nationally. But Rashad Madden, you had Devontae Abram out also, but Madden was really a key player on that team that did finish 2nd. Hunter Mickelson never really panned out at Arkansas, ended up transferring to Kansas. So hopefully this group comes out a little bit better. Moses Moody, number 44 overall prospect in the country, 6'6", 205-pound guard who can really shoot it. I mean, you name it, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Kansas. Do I need to keep on talking about all the scholarship offers he had? K.K. Robinson, 6 foot, 175 dynamo out of Bryant. Been playing at Oak Hill Academy in Mouth of Wilson, Virginia. He's actually on 24/7 Sports. KK's ranked ahead of Moses. He's number 38 nationally, and Moses is 39. But on the composite, when you compare everything, Moses is 44 and KK is 59. So 24/7 a little bit higher on those prospects than some of the other services. Illinois, Kansas, Florida, Iowa State, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, LSU. A lot of offers for him. Jalen Williams, another 4-star, out of Fort Smith Northside. Now, he's the first one of these guys that I'm mentioning that actually did play in the state of Arkansas and being from Arkansas. The other two played outside of state with Moses playing at Montverde Academy in Montverde, Florida. But Jalen, 6'9", 230. Last year, last year he might have come in and started for Arkansas because it's a little more cluttered in the front court now with some guys getting eligible and, from the Sit 1 last year and stuff like that, and, some transfers coming in. But last year, it was empty pretty much. I mean, you had a 6'6" guy in Adriel Bailey who was basically forced into that role because you just didn't have any guys down low. So, but he should provide some help next year. And definitely long-term. Auburn, UConn, Oklahoma State, Illinois, Iowa State, TCU, Texas A&M, and others came at him. Devontae Devo Davis, 6'4", 175, number 109 nationally. I don't know if I mentioned Jalen Williams. I think is in the – what is he nationally? Jalen is number 78 nationally, number 78 overall player in the country. Devontae Davis – from Jacksonville, Arkansas, 6'4", 175, combo guard, number 109 nationally, Oklahoma State, Auburn, Ole Miss, Oregon, some others. So the hoops class, all those guys are on campus now. That's about as official as you can get. All the football players are on campus who are going to be here. So another step in the right direction, even though we're all panicking a little bit, not all of us, but cases are spiking. Testing is setting record numbers as well. Nobody reports that the testing is also going up. But there's a lot going on with coronavirus right now, and I think that they made the proper steps with bringing these freshmen in the way that they did, just a little bit delayed. Here's some big news. Jaquaylin Crawford. Now, Danny knew about this for a while. Danny told me that Arkansas was going to get a transfer from a big-name school at wide receiver a long time ago. And then, so Danny's on vacation this week, and he tells me that this kid, Jaquaylin Crawford, is live now. And I'm like, he's like, the kid I was telling you about. I was like, the kid you were telling me about like 3 months ago? So Crawford, this is his video here. You can see he's got a lot of speed. 5'10", 161 out of high school. I think he's probably up over 170 now. But good-looking prospect, a guy that was just kind of buried on OU's depth chart, only played in one game in 2018, and then when Alex Grinch came in, they decided to try to move him over to cornerback, and that was 2019. Obviously, OU recruits a lot of highly regarded wide receivers, so it's easy to get buried there. But this is a guy who could probably help Arkansas. He's got to sit out this year, but he'll be there next year for him. So, good-looking player. Wants to play wide receiver, obviously. Entered the transfer portal in 2019. And I actually visited Arkansas before, took an official visit, not unofficial, an official visit to Arkansas. Number 183 ranked player in the country, number 9 athlete, number 19 overall prospect in the state of Texas. They wanted him to play cornerback. He wasn't too keen on that, so he's going to come to Arkansas where they can use him. Arkansas has a lot of big wide receivers on campus. I mean, they're really, as far as the shorter, shiftier guys, you think of a slot, and a lot of times, this day and age, there's guys who are more like 6 foot unless they're electric. With this guy at 5'10", looks pretty electric. He reminds me, actually, I tell you, he reminds me of a little bit is TJ Hammonds in some of his skill sets. So, anyway, good-looking player. A lot of elusiveness, and a guy that can help Arkansas at wide receiver, which is the position that he would like to play. As you can see from his highlights, the guy can get it, and Arkansas puts his premium on speed, obviously. Let's see here's what Alex Grinch had to say about him when he moved him over. He was a guy that Coach Roy Manning and myself kind of went to the offensive coaches and said, we see an elite athlete that is he going to figure in at wide receiver depth? And we spent so much time worrying about our guys that I couldn't tell you where he was on the depth chart. But just you see a guy with speed, the ability to track footballs and those things, and I kind of went to him and said, hey, this is something that we were thinking about, And if this is something that you're interested in, and he kind of, at least to a point, showed some interest as we tried him there the last couple of weeks, and he's a guy that will continue to work there. Obviously, he maybe gave it a shot, but just wasn't as keen on it as Grinch maybe thought he was. So it's a nice addition for Arkansas. Again, he'll have to sit out this year, but he will be eligible the following year. Gabe Brooks has a nice breakdown, VIP story on it, if you want to jump into that. He has a personal record of 10.53 seconds in the 100-meter dash. That's burning for a high school kid. He also posted a 22'8" long jump. So this guy's got track speed. It shows up on the football field. In 2017, he caught 52 passes for 777 yards and 11 touchdowns, rushing for 691 yards and 12 touchdowns, averaging almost 10 yards a carry. So he's got the numbers to back it up. He's got the track speed. The thing that he doesn't have is really contributing at OU, which is his first stop. Sometimes guys just need a change of pace. As for Arkansas's talent on the roster obviously isn't at the same level. Now, they do have some nice-looking young wide receivers. However, Traylon Burks goes about 6'3", 231. Just a freak. Trey Knox goes like 6'5", 205. Mike Woods goes more like 6'1", 190 or something. So you've got some bigger wide receivers overall, and then Devion Warren's really the only guy. You've got Kendall Catalon, I guess, Karsh Garner. You got some other guys, but this guy I think is somebody who can come in next year in 2021 and maybe jump right in there for him. So we'll see how it goes. Okay. So I mentioned Curtis Wilkerson earlier, and I want to go ahead and get to Curtis. I don't have a professional picture of him, but this is him at a Razorback game with his buddies, so I just pulled this off his Facebook page. But we'll get a better picture up of him. Real excited about Curtis.
Hey, Trey.
Hey, Curtis. So I was just introducing you to everybody, and just to go in a little bit further about Curtis, we started this process about 3 weeks ago, okay? So I will say we had a little over 40 people apply for the job, and from there I started trimming the list down based on people who met the qualifications with, having experience in journalism and, Razorback knowledge and all these types of things, people who we thought we might fit in well. And Curtis was one of about 15 people that I narrowed it down to. Ended up being the first person that I interviewed, and afterwards I was like, well, this might be our guy. I got to check his references and stuff. This might be our guy. And then I was thinking, like, how many other interviews? I've got 11 other interviews scheduled today. I was like, well, okay. But wanted to make sure I did the due diligence, went through the list and gave everybody a good, fair shot and considered all of our options. But I just kept coming back around to Curtis, and Danny liked what he saw, joined us for our second interview. And today's your first day on the job, Curtis. How's it been so far?
Oh, it's been great. I tell you, my head's been spinning a little bit, but got to introduce myself to everybody on the Razor's Edge this morning, and we've been doing a little Ask Me Anything chat throughout the morning, so I've had a good time with that. Some good questions, some funny questions, so it's good to get to know everybody a little bit. Other than that, just enjoying being busy again and pushing out some content, just kind of get things rolling.
Curtis, if you don't mind, take a second and just kind of tell everybody, where you're from, where you're living now, what you've been up to these last few years, and just let people get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm an Arkansas boy. So I grew up in McCrory over in Woodruff County off of Highway 64. Go Jaguars. From there, I went to college up in St. Louis at Lindenwood University. So played a little bit of basketball there, and then transitioned over into more of a student trainer, student coach role, and got to learn under some really good guys. Brad Soderberg mainly is an assistant coach at Virginia now, but learned a lot from him, and then I was able to get my foot in the door at our sister school that was just opening up at the time I was graduating in 2010 from college, Lindenwood University Belleville. So in NAIA school, I got on over there and was basketball coach, assistant coach for 7 years, and head coach for 1, and also the recruiting coordinator there with the Lindenwood Belleville Lynx. So that was great. And when I was there, it was a small school, and we were growing, so I had to wear multiple hats. I was an athletic trainer with the baseball program, with the football program. Did some teaching, some courses there, and things like that. So that was a good time. Unfortunately, the school just shut down in May, so it was time to take the next step. In the meantime, the last couple
Hey, Curtis,
of years,
I'm going to ask you real quick, whatever you've got going on audio. I think I asked you to put some headphones in or something, but maybe just change course and go a different direction. It's a little tin canny sounding.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Just take them out or whatever and go a different direction. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. Sorry. No, I was just going to say that for the last couple of years when I've really got into this line of work, so was working with Prep Hoops, which is a and recruiting service. So I was working with those guys in Missouri and Illinois, got to trickle down to Arkansas. So doing some player evaluation and rankings, scouting reports, things like that. And I've also been writing for Busting Brackets as a contributor. So college basketball website and covering all Arkansas Razorbacks and SEC.
Curtis Wilkerson joining us. Again, you can follow Curtis at KurtWilkerson_ on Twitter if you want to keep up with all the latest content that he puts out. He's already put out 2 articles today. I think he's got another one scheduled for around 2 o'clock coming out, and he's going to be covering football, basketball, baseball for us. As you can see, he's got a really strong knowledge of Razorback basketball, having been a former player on the NAIA level and a coach and an administrator and working in sports medicine, and also has worked with football teams and basketball teams, worked inside of a smaller college in the recruiting department. So he understands how things like that work, recruiting works, and of course been a contributor for Busting Brackets and Prep Hoops. So he's got a great background. It really intrigued me, and just from meeting him on our first interview when we had the Zoom meeting, just a big old smile and very engaging. So we liked what we saw, and we're certainly happy to have you here, Curtis. So I want to ask you a little bit about this basketball team. Your first article was about Razorback hoops. Can you just kind of give us an idea of what you expect to see out of this basketball program moving forward based on what you've seen so far with some of the new additions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing that really stands out to me with this group is just the depth and the versatility on the roster. Last year, Musselman wasn't necessarily playing with a full hand. I mean, they only had 9 scholarship players. We know that they were undersized. 6'6" Adriel Bailey at center, and hey, he played well, but he was kind of forced into that position to a degree. So, it looks like the emphasis from Eric Musselman was to add size and depth, and he did a lot of that. We know how strong he is on the transfer portal, and I think the grad transfer additions, Jalen Tate, Justin Smith, Vance Jackson, all 3 of those guys should come in and make an immediate positive impact for the Razorbacks. We heard you talking about the freshman class earlier, some really special talents there, and really when you put all the pieces together, it's just a group that looks to me like they're one that can make the NCAA tournament really be a tough matchup for teams because of the different things that they can do. If they want to go big, they can go big. If they want to go small, they can go small. They can put out an all-defensive lineup. They can shoot the 3. So there's really a lot of things to be excited for, I think, with this Razorback team. And I think this is going to be the beginning of a little bit of a new era and kind of getting back to a little bit of the tradition when we just expected the Razorbacks to be in the NCAA tournament every year. I think that's going to start this year.
How good could this team be if Isaiah Joe comes back? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a big X factor. With Isaiah Joe returning, just everything that he brings to the table. I mean, obviously, as a shooter and a floor-spacing threat, the experience that he brings, not only knowing the system, but 2 years in the SEC, That's a game changer, I think, for Arkansas, and I think it's one that could really vault them over the top, especially if he can bring a little bit more leadership and things of that nature. He's also a very underrated defender with his length and ability to move on the perimeter, take charges and things like that. So, if Isaiah Joe chooses to return, I do think that this is absolutely an NCAA tournament team, and one that, hey, with the right matchups, they could make it into that second weekend of the big dance.
Curtis, I'm not sure how much you've been able to dive into recruiting stuff. I know that's always been, something natural for you anyway, but I'm just going to ask you, with basketball recruiting, where do you see Arkansas moving? What are some needs, and is there any players that maybe jump out?
Yeah, definitely. The one thing you can say about Eric Musselman and this staff is that they cast a really wide net. So a lot more in ways of interest and contacts and offers and things like that than we were used to seeing with Mike Anderson and previous staff. So he has reached out and made offers to a ton of prospects. When you look at it, it looks like we're going to have at least 3 open scholarships and, pending what Isaiah Joe does. And there's always a surprise or two via the transfer portal. He might be in a position where he's looking to add 5 or 6 guys again. You take a look at some of those 2021 prospects, particularly in the backcourt, guys like Harrison Ingram, Trey Alexander, guys like that, who are, exciting prospects to think about, highly rated top guys. Maybe it's wishful thinking right now, but hey, when we were at this point last summer, I don't think anybody would have said that he would have wound up with the 2020 class that he did. So I wouldn't rule anything out there. And then he's going to be involved in the transfer portal. So as soon as those names hit, you can pretty much guarantee that Arkansas is going to enter the conversation, and they're going to fill their needs no matter what.
Curtis Wilkerson joining us. Curtis, I'm going to let you get back to it I know you got a long list of questions on our Ask Me Anything thread that's going on the Razor's Edge Premium Forum, and got another article coming out today. And I just want to say, again, super excited to have you on board. And I think a lot of people can see just in this small window here why we recruited you and brought you on to HawgSports. So super excited to have you here, and congratulations on day one.
Hey, Trey, I really appreciate it. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity and looking forward to working and learning from you and Danny. You guys are the best. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Curtis. All right. That's Curtis Wilkerson. Again, new man at HawgSports. Great first day so far. Great first interview. And as you can see, this is a guy, I kind of put him on the spot just to see what he would know there at the end. And this is a guy that loves Razorback athletics, following the Razorbacks. It's not what we wanted to find with this hire is somebody who didn't look at this as a job, somebody who looked at this as how I look at it, waking up every morning and can't wait to get back to work, which is one reason this lack of sports is killing me. But that's what we're looking for at HawgSports. We have that with Danny. Danny, it just comes second nature, covering football recruiting. And then not only is Curtis going to be able to help us in all those aspects of football, basketball, baseball coverage, but really provide some extra insight into hoops that maybe Danny and I lack a little bit. With Eric Musselman, I mean, you can see what's happening at Arkansas, right? We can all see what's happening here, and we need to make sure that we have somebody on board who can really provide some insight into that world beyond what anybody else has been able to do at HawgSports in the past. So super excited about Curtis Wilkerson. All right, transitioning now. I ran this article over the weekend. For those who missed it, for those who don't tune in on the weekends, there's a lot of good stuff that comes out, and this one was about Arkansas secondary in 2020, and it's a 2-part deal. The first part just kind of breaking down, where Arkansas has been in the past. Back in 2016, there was not a single 4-star recruit in Arkansas secondary, and you fast forward to the 2020 season, and we're looking at 5 guys who are 4-stars, and that doesn't include Ladarius Bishop, who is a 4-star on one of the 3 recruiting surfaces, but there are 5 guys who are composite 4-stars on this roster. But if you look at 2016, you look at last year's stats, even though there were, I think, 4 guys who were 4-stars, 2 of them were true freshmen. One of them was a freshman starter. The other was Monteric Brown. But the numbers in terms of pass yards given up are pretty much the same. But like Arkansas's, the efficiency rating that they allowed to other quarterbacks was dramatically bad. I mean, you go from a 129.5 ranking in 2016 for a defense that wasn't that good then either, which was 10th in the SEC. 2019, they allowed a 154.9 rating. And the thing of it is, nobody had to throw on Arkansas because they could run on them. You go back and look at some of the games, like Kentucky, for example. Kentucky threw 12 passes against Arkansas. 7 of them were thrown by a wide receiver playing his first game at quarterback, full game, and the other was thrown by a running back, the other completion. So they had 8 completions. So they still, I mean, like overall, it still shows a lot. Just, I guess it's quicker death maybe, throwing the ball against Arkansas, and you put them out of misery, and then you just run the ball. Like, I mean, Missouri's 10 of their last 12 plays or so were runs. The last 10 plays for a lot of these teams, Western Kentucky, the last 10 plays were runs. I mean, so Arkansas' secondary has been bad if you didn't know. Surprise. Tell you something you don't know there. But I do think there's encouraging things to look at for the future when you talk about some of the guys that have come in. I think that Monteric Brown has the ability to potentially play on the next level. I thought he started off really strong last year, like some of the players did, but like most everybody else did, certainly tailed off there towards the end of the season. But this is a guy that's a very physical tackler. I mean, he's a solid tackler from the cornerback spot. I think he can fight through blockers, and he's got good coverage skills, good hips. I think he's got a lot, a good size, 6 foot 190. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's just got to get, he needs a really good, consistent year here for him to start popping up on some radars for NFL scouts. But I think he's got the potential to do so. Greg Brooks Jr., another 4-star. I felt like Greg was a little bit out of position last year. I feel like he has the quicks to play cornerback, but for that nickel spot, you not only need to be quick and able to cover slot receivers, but you also got to be stout to take on blockers. You got to be savvy enough to, read run and play run support. So those are areas where I think he struggled a little bit. Having said that, he was just a true freshman last year, so he can add some bulk, add some size, add some that savvy we were talking about in the run game. So maybe he can still play there. Otherwise, I say move him over to cornerback. And maybe a guy like Devin Bush, who's, a little bit bigger build guy, could come in. So what is Bush? Bush goes like 205 or something, I think. 6 foot 205. So he's a little bit bigger guy. You've also got Jalen Catalon, who, again, played 4 games last year. A lot of people think Catalon hurt his shoulder in the Western Kentucky game. That was the game that he saw a significant amount of playing time. But the fact of the matter is, he played in 3 games earlier in the year. He played some kneel downs at the end of the Ole Miss game. Just threw that away. Just toss that away. Toss that game away. You get 4 games to redshirt. You're just going to put him in for 2 kneel downs against Ole Miss. Next week, you're going to play him for some. I almost said BS. You're going to play him for some. Just a handful of special teams plays the next week. I mean, just poorly handled. And so the truth is, he didn't have any games left after Western Kentucky. He needed shoulder surgery, so he just went ahead and had shoulder surgery. But he'd been playing with shoulder issue. But I think that he's got a good shot to either start at free safety. I could see him starting at nickel. I could see him at the middle safety when they do 3-2-6. But it was a guy that was very highly recruited, even though he tore his ACL in the first game. Danny West was actually at that game. Tore his ACL in the first game of his senior season. He was still the number 305 overall prospect in the country. He's kind of slid from there, but he remained a 4-star prospect. You also add Miles Slusher to the mix, who enrolled early. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to go through spring, but that's another very talented safety. You'll probably see some action this season, I should say. So you definitely upgraded some things in terms of talent, but just looking back at 2016, how 2019 played out, it just goes back to my statement that it's not just about the Jimmies and Joes, it's also about the X's and O's. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes and the X's and the O's. Both count. Arkansas's got Barry Odom back there working in the secondary. Hopefully he can shore things up for him. Again, nobody's asking them to be like great in the secondary, but just let's take the steps and get back to being an average, just a middle of the pack, finishing somewhere around 7th, 8th in pass efficiency defense in the SEC. That would be a step in the right direction. Now, it's not just that, okay? As we know, linebacker play, those guys got to cover. And you definitely had better linebackers top to bottom in 2016. You had, Brooks Ellis, Dre Greenlaw, Dijon Harris, younger Dijon Harris versus last year. You just didn't have the same level of depth. You got some good younger players. You just didn't have the same level of depth. And those guys got to cover too. Plus, you want to go down to the defensive line. You're talking about, Jeremiah Ledbetter, Dietrich Wise, McTelvin Agim was younger, but he was on that team, obviously. Tywan Johnson. So you had some better overall guys that could get to the quarterback. With Arkansas's defensive line moving forward, Mateo Soli, who was a freshman last year, played most of the season with a club on his hand. Zach Williams. These are promising edge guys. Jashad Stewart coming in the freshman class. You've also getting Dorian Gerald back, adding Julius Coates. So you ought to beef up a little bit on the defensive line. And Jonathan Marshall's a guy that can get into the backfield too. I've seen people, it's weird because I've projected Jonathan Marshall as a starter, and I had some people, and we'll get into that in a minute, but I had some people like, Jonathan Marshall, he's got big weight room numbers and all that stuff, but it doesn't translate on the field. I went back and watched a decent bit of the Kentucky game from last year. I've just kind of been doing that kind of stuff, back when Arkansas was still trying to win games. And, the guy really just comes off the ball explosively. I don't know what people are talking about. I thought he should have started last year, but he comes off the ball really well. I think he can provide a pass rush, too, from the interior. So I think the hope has got to be that everybody – now, secondary, I think you see an elevation. I think across the board on the defensive line with some of those young four-star recruits getting a little bit older, getting Dorian Gerald back. You lose McTelvin, but you get Dorian in, you bring in Julius Coates, all that. I think across the spectrum of the defensive line, and even going back into the depth, adding a guy like Xavier Kelly also, I think you have a chance to be better on the defensive line. I know you got a chance to be better in the secondary, even though they lost Cameron Curl, because those young – highly recruited guys are getting a little bit older, and I think they're going to get better coaching all the way around. Also, the area that I kind of wonder about, and I think most people do, is linebacker, where you've got projected probably Bumper Pool and Grant Morgan starting. Probably your Sam is probably going to be Hayden Henry. And you've got Levi Draper coming in. Zach Zymos is a guy that a lot of people have had some positive things to say about. Just needed to add weight. He's up probably, I think, close to 230 now, so that's good at about 6'4", but we've heard he has a lot of good athleticism. It would be nice to see Andrew Parker step up. They could obviously use him. We've been saying that for the last couple of years, though. So linebacker's a bit of a concern. Defensive line, yeah, I think they can be an average defensive line in the SEC. That's the step we're talking about here. Average. Try to get to a bowl game. I'm picking about 5 wins without having seen them practice. I'll adjust based on that. But coaching is going to matter a lot, guys. We've talked so much about, where Arkansas's program is and the talent level. The talent may be bad. You can say it's bad. That's fine. It's not a train wreck, gutter fire, disaster. Gutter fire, dumpster fire, disaster. That's not what this roster is. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Nobody from Western Kentucky is turning down an Arkansas scholarship to go to Western Kentucky. Yet it's 35-7 in Razorback Stadium at halftime. X's and O's and Jimmy's and Joe's. Go on there and check out the secondary story. I think you'll enjoy it. A lot of numbers, a lot of breakdowns, a lot of looks backs. Real quick, ESPN updated the 2021 NCAA tournament bracket. They have Arkansas as an 8th seed, but they say if Joe gets back, then they could be really dangerous, which I think we got. So they have Arkansas in the Midwest. Virginia's the 1. 16's Norfolk State / Delaware. Arkansas is the 8. Richmond is the 9. And this is from Joe Lunardi from ESPN. Here's what it said here. Arkansas could be better than an 8 seed, even if Isaiah Joe stays in the draft. If he returns, the Razorbacks look like SEC title contenders. So, nice praise there. I think we can all see what's coming at Arkansas. Really, really good things are coming. Arkansas, I think, headed out of the park. with the Eric Musselman hire. SEC preseason projected order of finish released. I guess this is for our guys at 24/7 Sports, but they've got Arkansas 13th, so not last, but Vanderbilt is 14th. So Vanderbilt's 14th. Arkansas doesn't play them. So according to this, it's a battle for last place. But they give Arkansas a chance, Missouri, Ole Miss, some November games. But I think they have a shot against Mississippi State. I think they have a shot against Tennessee at home. And really, you win your 3 non-conference games, you're going to lose to Notre Dame probably. But you win your other 3 non-conference games, non-Power 5 games. Well, Notre Dame's not a Power 5, but you know what I mean. And you got these 4 games right here, right? So you got 7 games with a possibility of winning, okay? Probably win 2 of those. That's kind of how I came up with 5. I say probably win 2. It's hard to say that when they're on a 19-game SEC losing streak, but I think they're going to win at least 1 in the SEC next year. All right, I came out with my projected depth chart for week 1. I don't want to spoil the whole thing. I'm going to go over a couple of starters here. Felipe Frank's obviously at quarterback, but go check out the article because I put a lot of effort into it. It's a good read. Rakeem Boyd at running back. These are no-brainers. Trey Knox, Mike Wood, Traylon Burks at wide receiver. I went 3 deep, though. I went 3 deep at every spot. Hudson Henry at tight end. Myron Cunningham. Here's my offensive line. Myron Cunningham, Bo Limmer. This is left to right. Left tackle Myron Cunningham, left guard Bo Limmer, center Ty Clary, right guard Ricky Stromberg, right tackle Noah Gatlin. All right. So with the interior offensive line, that was really hard because I do think we can see a battle here between Luke Jones, Bo Limmer, Ty Clary, all at center and that left guard spot. Let's be frank. Ty Clary has to do a better job at getting consistent, getting the ball back there, not floating it, put it back there with some authority. And I think that'll probably be something that changes with a new coaching staff that, hey, flicking it back isn't okay. I think the last staff was probably okay with it. They certainly never brought it up. But he's got to get the ball back there quickly. As a blocker, he actually graded pretty well when you look at Pro Football Focus compared to everybody else. But if he can't get the snaps, move him to left guard. Let him compete there with Bo Limmer and Luke Jones. Bo Limmer, Luke Jones, Ty Clary are guys that you saw last year anyway, taking snaps at center. Things could change with a new offensive line coach. They may have a different idea. Maybe they see Bo Limmer as a tackle. Who knows? But I think you're going to see Noah Gatlin win out at right tackle. Ricky Stromberg up over 300 pounds. Ty Clary. So everybody's weight's up. 293 from Cunningham, up from 285. Bo Limmer was a little bit lighter last year, 297. Ty Clary was 285 last year. He's 298. Stromberg was 276, probably at his peak, maybe 279 at his peak, but at one point was 260s. But he's up to over 300 pounds. He's listed at 298 on the roster, but he's over 300. Noah Gatlin, 303 at 6'7". I think the way you'll see things, like if something happens with Myron Cunningham at left tackle, you probably see Noah Gatlin move from right tackle over to the left tackle and then have Dalton Wagner come in at right tackle. I think Wagner's more of a right side guy than a left side guy, where Gatlin probably start at right tackle this year and then in 2021 probably be your starter at left tackle. We see that with a lot of other schools where they move guys over like that. So go check out the article for more details. Left end defense, Dorian Gerald, Jonathan Marshall, Marcus Miller at defensive tackles, and Matteo Soli at the jack, which is what they call their edge guy, which I envision a guy that puts his hand in the dirt, maybe backs off the line of scrimmage, maybe gets in a two-point stance sometimes. But Marcus Miller would probably be my surprise projection guy on the defensive line. I just think at 6'5", 300 pounds, I mean, when he hit campus as a true freshman, he's one of the best-looking defensive linemen on the team right off the get-go. The thing that worries me about Marcus is he's starting to develop a little bit of an injury history. He was injured last year, only played in 2 games, definitely would have played the full maximum of 4. He had an injury in high school that really, I think, prevented him from getting a good ranking. That, along with the fact that he didn't attend any camps. So, physically, get off the bus type of guy. Get off the bus first type of guy, Marcus Miller. If it's not Marcus Miller, I could see a situation where maybe Julius Coates gets in there at 6'6", 281. Eric Gregory, 6'4", 270. He could grow definitely into a defensive tackle. You also have Isaiah Nichols, who goes about 6'3", 276 on the interior. Xavier Kelly coming over from Clemson as a former 4-star recruit. Maybe he's a guy that makes a push for a starting spot. But I'm just making a little bit of a projection with Marcus Miller. Bubba Miller's got a lot of talent, got a lot of potential in my opinion. So what would this be without some conjecture and some projection? Bumper pool, Grant Morgan, Hayden Henry at linebacker. We talked about that earlier. Levi Draper, hopefully he'll have a say in that as well. Jalen Catalon and Joe Fouché are my projected starters at free safety and strong safety, respectively. Left cornerback, Jerry Jacobs, usurping Jarquez McClellan. Monteric Brown at right cornerback. Devin Bush is who I have at nickelback. And I've got Greg Brooks and Jarquez McClellan as the top backups. And I got Malik Chavis as my top nickelback. Now, my top backup nickelback. Malik is a guy that I think could play. I mean, the guy's like 6'2", 200 pounds. Big, good-looking kid. He could be a nickel. He played cornerback last year. He could be a safety. I think you can do a lot of guys with Rising's finest. Sorry, Danny West. And then special teams, A.J. Reed coming in from Duke at kicker. He'll be pushed by Matthew Phillips. George Caratan and Sam Loy should have a battle at punter. For those who don't remember, Caratan is the transfer from Michigan they just added. Sam Loy they added from Colorado, who was at Vanderbilt before that and started at Vanderbilt. So, Sam Loy got good hang times on his kick. It's just they were a little too vertical. You didn't see a lot of returns from Sam Loy, but a lot of times they were just like straight up in the air almost, didn't go far enough. So a little more of a 45-degree needed there. Jordan Silver returns the long snapper. Traylon Burks and Devion Warren, I think we all expect to see them at kick return. Traylon Burks should have been doing it the whole year. Traylon Burks at punt return. And then I've got Jalen Catalon penciled in as a backup there at punt return. So that's it. That's my projected depth chart. Well, I should say my starting lineup. If you want to see the full depth chart, just go to HawgSports. Again, I went 3 deep there, and I think it's a fun read. I think it had like 100,000 views. People are dying for sports. All right, I'm going to get into some of your questions here. Going to go kind of fast because we got a lot to do with Curtis's new first day. But Curtis Kendrick says, good morning from Las Vegas. Hey, Curtis. Hope you're staying safe out there. Torrey Burks Sr. says, good afternoon, Trey. Hey, Torrey. Good to hear from you again. Rusty Hotstetler says, can the NCAA force players to play being they're not getting paid? Can the NCAA force players to play beings they're not getting paid? You might want to rephrase that, Rusty, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Justin Nolan says, okay. Curtis Kendrick says, Pete, no. Curtis Kendrick says, wish you the best. Austin Gibbons says, who's going to be QB1 game 1? Felipe Franks. I feel pretty good about that. Again, I haven't seen all the guys throw together in person side by side, but just given Franks' background, I mean, he's been a starter for, 2 years and was going on his 3rd year at Florida. He also, so he redshirted his first year. He only played 3 games last year. According to the revised new 6-year eligibility rule, where it previously said if you redshirted on your own, then you basically weren't going to be eligible later down the road. And they removed that. So if you are redshirted and you have an injury down the road, you can recover that year now. So Felipe, based on all that, qualifies for a 6-year of eligibility. You just got to apply for it after the season. It's no different than Kevin Richardson at Arkansas a couple years ago. Kevin Richardson got a 6-year, didn't qualify for it initially as the rule was written. They amended it, and he qualified. How are Arkansas high schools handling summer football workouts? Well, I mean, I don't think they can really do anything right now. I mean, you work out on your own, but that's it. How you doing, Keith? Hope you're staying out well. You're in a hot spot in Phoenix, or I should say Arizona. But here's the deal, like, with the coronavirus stuff, like people are like, Arizona's a hot spot, but where exactly? Like I'm going to Florida next week, and people are telling me don't go to Florida and all this stuff. It's a hot spot and it's spiking and stuff. And I'm looking at the state of Florida and where everything's spiking in. a large percentage of it is in Miami, Dade County, Broward County. There's a ton of cases spiking. Most of it's from younger people who I think they made a mistake by opening up all the bars because you get a few in you. You don't care about social distancing. Young people think they're invincible anyway. So I think that they probably made a mistake opening up some of these bars early. But I look at the county where I'm staying, Walton County, and there's like 211 reported cases, 74,000 people, residents, not including all the tourists that come in and out of there. So there's more cases in northwest Arkansas and per capita in Washington County than there is there. So, saying like Florida's a hot spot, that's an entire state. South Florida, yes. Other parts, sure. But anyway, Keith, stay safe out there. It's good seeing you. Was that 2 weeks ago, I guess? Keith was in Arkansas. Tony Ball says starting tight ends first game. I think it's going to be Hudson. I just think the path is cleared for him to be that. I think Blaine Toll can help them also, but probably going to be Blake Kern. I wouldn't mind seeing Traylon Burks line up at tight end just to get some mismatches with some linebackers. I think he could help there. I would love to see Traylon Burks literally be the guy that just moves all over the place. You got to account for where he is. If you got to account for where he is, then you know that they're using him a lot. Trey, when will we have a tight end commitment, and who are we looking at for this year, next year as well? Happy 4th. I don't know that anybody's just like jumping out. Now, there's a kid in 2022 from inside the state that Arkansas has offered. Let's look at targets real quick. Actually, I can bring up Danny's big red board, and we'll take a quick look at the tight end recruiting from Danny. Again, Danny's on vacation right now, Gulf Shores. If you see him down there, tell him hello. Make sure to bother him. Make sure to ask him a bunch of recruiting questions if you see him. So for tight end recruiting, which is a need position, right now you've got – oh, yeah, I forgot about Aaron Outley, of course. How could I have done that? So Aaron Outley right now is – I would say I would put him at hot to Arkansas. Little Rock Parkview tight end, 6'4", 246. Danny has had a crystal ball pick in for Aaron Outley for some time, and then Steve Wiltfong kind of surprised us and put one in for Florida State. Danny never moved it, and then eventually I guess Wiltfong got some information and has decided to flip his crystal ball pick back over to Arkansas. Shield Taylor is another one, Alexandria, Louisiana, 6'4", 235, and Arrington McCray, 6'3", 230 out of Springdale Harbor, who's not been offered, but another guy that they got their eye on. So that's kind of where things stand with tight end recruiting. Patrick Tina Payton, will the Hogs win 6 games? I'm saying no right now. But again, haven't seen him practice. Sean Larry Townsend says Arkansas has two head coaches and the best O-line coach, quarterback, running back, and receivers. Auburn, Texas, and Arkansas finish in the West. Not sure where you're going there, Larry. Sean, Larry. Bobby Dale, will this year be without fans? I think it's possible. At the same time, I don't know what 50% capacity would do because I've heard some teams talk about that. Texas Governor Abbott had talked about that, but I mean, you still got somebody directly behind you and right over here. As far as I understand, that we're talking about like you need to be 6 feet apart. But I guess if everybody's wearing masks, and that definitely helps. I do think that everybody will be wearing masks if they are allowed in the stadium. But we've seen the protest. There have been I've seen people wearing masks. I've seen people not wearing a mask. We saw the Trump rally. There were people packed in there. If you can have these rallies and protests and stuff. Can't put fans in there if they want to go. I mean, if you're worried about it, if you have pre-existing conditions, then I would probably recommend staying home. I'm not a doctor, but that's what everybody seems to say. Otherwise, be safe. I mean, just be cautious. I go out everywhere I've gone. When I go into anywhere since this started, before Fayetteville made a policy that you have to wear a mask everywhere, I wore a mask. I carried hand sanitizer in my pocket, and I had a mask on. The thing about the mask is if I'm wearing a mask and you're not, then I'm not protected from you, but you're protected from me. It's not about stopping you from breathing your stuff on me. So everybody needs to be wearing a mask. Wear a mask. Keep the thing slow. You're not going to stop it. The thing is going to continue to spread. You're not going to stop the virus. That's never been what this is about. It's about slowing the spread down, doing your part to slow things down. This thing goes through our community. You develop a herd immunity. I mean, that's what this is about. You don't overwhelm the hospitals. You keep the spike low as possible. But it's still going to spread. It's not like it goes up and then down and then it disappears. It stays like this, hopefully. And it's a virus. It spreads. It's what it's there to do. Trey, who's your favorite all-time favorite Razorback football player and why? Thanks. I think it might be Darren McFadden. I mean, it's going to be Darren McFadden or Matt Jones, but I think Darren, just because of the way he represented Arkansas when he was here, finishing runner-up for the Heisman twice. I'm still irked that he didn't win at least one of those, possibly two. I definitely think he should have won over Troy Smith. But I'm going to say McFadden. I was covering him since he was like probably, he's real young, so he's like 15 years old when people started finding out about Darren McFadden. But he's up there. Always been a big fan of Jonathan Luigs. I mean, he was the first guy I ever interviewed back in 2003. My very first interview was Luigs. Luigs, not Luigs, by the way. But I got to go with Darren McFadden. Hey, Trey, will Justin Smith be as good as Michael Qualls? He's a finisher. They got a finisher. They got a guy that can defend a lot of different players. I think this is a really nice addition. I don't know about as good as Michael Qualls. He might be a better defender than Qualls was. I don't know if he could finish quite like Qualls can, but he can finish. So it's a nice addition, I think. I really am excited about this basketball team coming up. And excited to have Curtis on there helping with us and the insight that he can provide. Not that I love basketball. But, Curtis is a guy who's been a coach. He's been a player on the collegiate level. He's worked in the recruiting department. So he's going to bring a lot to the table for us, I hope. Bobby Dale, I heard he was compared to Joe Adams. Who? Oh, I could see that maybe. Talking about Jaqueline. Yeah, I could see that. Scott Hickman says, Hick Dog here from Malvern, though I live in Fayetteville now. What's the story with Tyus Martin and why is Arkansas not recruiting him, or maybe something they can't talk about? I think it's one of these guys that they wanted to evaluate better. I think, the COVID-19 pandemic has hurt guys like this, inside the state from not being able to get to a camp at Arkansas. So I think it's an evaluation thing. Right now they're on the outside in terms of offering him, but there's not really a chance for them to get inside. The recruiting dead periods have been extended again all the way to August 31st. So, Tony Ball says, go Jaguars, McCrory, my town. Woopig Suey from Apple Valley, California says NP Rich. Kirk Jackson says, are you on Parler? I'm not sure what that is. Do I want to know? Chuck Goodner says, did Dabo give Chad the wrong blueprints? Yeah, he did. He didn't give him the right blueprints. Timothy Wisenat says, Woopig Suey from San Francisco Bay Area in California. What's up, Timothy? No politics. Jimmy Davis cusses. Donnie A. Butt says, we need a lot of steps in the right direction. Yes, everybody needs to take one big step in the right direction. Joshua Shiver says, Darren Turner going to play wide receiver this year, and will he see the field? I think it's possible he does. Again, haven't seen him practice, but Arkansas is a little bit depleted at wide receiver because they did have some attrition. Jordan Jones leaving the team, TQ Jackson leaving the team, and Deion Stewart not being listed on the roster anymore just by having a year of eligibility. So they had three guys who are no longer with the team. So it was pretty much a necessity to put him at wide receiver. Don't y'all sleep on big Marcus Miller. He's going to surprise some people. I'm there with you, man. I think he's got a shot. Scott Hickman says 4.25, basically the defense Houston Nutt ran his first year here, Code Red, LOL. I always thought they missed an opportunity because it was Code Red under Keith Burns. And then Reggie Herring came in, and I thought they should have called it Code Red Herring. They never caught on. A lot of things I come up with never come on. Dijon Harris, Scooter Harris is a good nickname, but Dijon, Mustard Harris would have been a great name for a middle linebacker. It's an opportunity, Mustard Harris. Yeah, 4-2-5 was actually a defense that was really made popular at TCU under Gary. I'm spacing on it. Patterson. Really made popular by him. But we're going to see a lot of different looks. We'll see some 3-2-6. We'll see 4-3, 4-2-5. A lot of different stuff. Good old Coach Burns, Bandit and Rover. Yep. Made Zach Painter a star. Made Zach Painter an all-SEC, first-team all-SEC defensive back. I guess he was one of the hybrids. It was on that first defense, it was Zach Painter, I think, was the Rover, and I think the Bandit was Jeremy Flowers, maybe? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. When will Felipe apply for a 6-year of eligibility? It'll be after this season. I know Blaine Toll is needed at tight end, but do you think with his size he would mold into a really good middle linebacker? I think for the way he's put together, he's an end. I like him, his potential as a defensive end, and we'll see what he does at tight end. I think he can grow into a good tight end. I just think it takes more, coaching, more practice, more work. Defensive end, I think that was more of a position you could put him in there physically. He already looks like he's been in the program for a while. You could put him in there and say, have at it. But tight end, I think eventually he can be a really good tight end. But linebacker, I don't know if I see him as a linebacker. You said almost the same thing about possible wins last year, Trey Biddy. Yeah, I said – here's what I've said, Kevin, first of all. And, again, I didn't know that they were going to completely let go of the rope again. Like they did the year before. The first year, I said under Matt Morris, I said Arkansas would I picked Arkansas to win 5 games. You will not find another local media person who didn't predict them to go to a bowl game, Chad Morris's first year. You won't find one. I feel like I was the only guy out there. And then the next year, I predicted them to win 6, I believe, and they totally collapsed. There were games that they could have and should have won, Texas A&M, Kentucky. There are games here and there that they could have won but didn't. So thanks for pointing that out, Kevin. What did you predict last year and the year before? Jacob Botwinick says, are you going to watch the documentary about Sutton tonight? Yeah, I'm going to watch the Sutton documentary. I don't know if I'll catch it tonight, but I'll absolutely watch it. The 2022 offensive line class is stacked. Jeremy Butler says, who would win in the octagon, you or Danny West? I think I would. The thing about Danny is I think he might not – what I worry, I don't think he might not know when to quit, when he's had enough. I used to love wrestling, like actually doing it. We didn't have wrestling in high school when I was in high school in Arkansas, but we did it in off-season football. Who would win the octagon, you or Chad Morris? I have no question that I would beat Chad Morris in the octagon. 247 article about the top SEC assistant, Chad Morris in the top 5, I know. And Browse and Odom not even listed. Surely the article was meant as satire. I really like a lot of stuff that Grant does. I did not agree with him on this one at all. I don't know how you couldn't have Browse and Odom in that list of top. I don't know that anybody hired a better duo of offensive assistants. I don't understand how, based on what Chad Morris did last year, how pathetic Arkansas's offense has been the last 2 years, that you could say he's a top 5 coordinator right now. I don't doubt that he had success at Clemson. I don't doubt that at all, okay? But how do we go from what he did at Arkansas to putting him at 5 with some of those other guys? there's some studs on that list, but Kendall Browse, Barry Odom absolutely deserve that list. Not my favorite article from our desk. But different strokes for different folks, different opinions. Maybe we get proven wrong. It's not like Kendall Browse came off of a great season at Florida State. Now, they improved their offense. Their rushing yards per game increased by like 50 yards per game. So he improved them. But I don't know. I don't agree with putting Chad Morris after last year at 5, number 5 off assistant coach hire. How is backup running backs? There's some questions at running back. You've got Traylon Smith, who we've heard some good things about in practice, going against Arkansas's defense, which wasn't very good. But he is quick. He is shifty. You also got T.J. Hammonds coming in, who's going on for his last ride. And you got Amonte Spivey. You also have Dominic Johnson, who's a bigger back coming in from the freshman class. Amonte Spivey is a guy to keep an eye on, intriguing. Let's see what kind of step he can make forward. But, of course, Rakeem Boyd is the guy. And then hopefully what we hear about Traylon Smith is real, and he can come in and provide a nice change of pace. Traylon Burks is the truth on and off the field, but I've been spanking his ass fishing. Traylon Burks loves fishing, loves Westerns. He's a unique guy. I really think he just sees the world differently than everybody else, both on the field and off. How do you think Pittman is recruiting in state right now? I think they're off to a fine enough start inside the state. We'll see how things go. Patricia Baker says, sure, this plus he can run. Also played some high school. He should be able to read well, absorb more blockers than Bumper or Morgan. We're talking about Draper. Mark Rosenberg says, hey, Joe Rosencall, you said he needs his entire vibe and look back for dinner time. I don't like that, Mark. First of all, I'm not the only person with brick. I didn't even think about it when I saw that, but there's nothing I can really do about this aside from wearing a toupee and looking like a moron. And first of all, I'm about – how tall is Joe Rogan? I'm 6'1". So I'm like 5 inches taller than Joe Rogan. I'm 10 years younger, I'm better looking, and I'm not as funny. And I don't have guests on the show. So take that, Mark Rosenberg. How about Ray Romano called. He wants his look back. Ray Romano called, Mark. I can play that game too. Randy Max Slaughter says this is a free country. Yes, it is. Talk about sports, says Randy Max Slaughter. Okay. But I can do what I want, Randy Max Slaughter. It's a free country. Matthew Lowe says, and my top 5 are Myron Cunningham, Shane Clennon, Luke Jones, Ricky Stromberg, Dalton Wagner. Randy Max Slaughter gets a little political, which I try to stay away from, even though I have my strong opinions as well. Will Lennox says next commit, ? Blake Garrett says, where is Kirby, ? Kirby Adcock. Kirby Adcock's no longer with the team. He's retired from football early. Henry Cagle says, are we going to have someone to hold on to the ball? Too many drop balls last year. I think they got some weapons. The question is quarterback. Kevin Venable says 5-7 in the last 2 years. I hear you. Wes Murray says mask muffled hog calls will be intense. I wonder if they'll pipe in fan like crowd noise. I would be fine with them doing that. Otherwise, you're just going to hear a lot of cussing. Any of the freshmen O-line see the field this year? I think there's a possibility for all 3 of them. If I had to pick one, I say maybe Marcus Henderson challenges that left guard spot. So that's where I think things possibly go. Super excited about Curtis Wilkerson joining our team again. If you haven't gone to HawgSports.com, you can read 2 of his new articles. He just started today. Got a great basketball background, recruiting background, having worked inside the athletic department, worked for prep hoops. Publication, also busting brackets. So he's been around the block a little bit as far as journalism goes. Also been a coach, former player on the collegiate level, administrator, worked in sports medicine and football and basketball, and a lifelong follower of the Hogs, originally from McCrory, Arkansas. So excited to have Curtis Wilkerson on the team. Excited to have you with us. I want to thank all you guys for joining us. We didn't have the show last week, of course, but there's plenty of ways to watch and listen. Of course, always streaming on Facebook Live. Be sure to throw us a thumbs up right now if you have not done so already and you like the show. Follow the page. We're almost to 80,000 and want to get there before football season starts, so help us, please. Also available on YouTube. Subscribe to the page, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime we upload a new video, and throw us a like if you like the content there. Apple Podcasts. Love to have a 5-star review from you. Love to have a comment from you also if you really like the show. But if you haven't thrown us a 5-star review and you're listening on Apple Podcasts, or you're watching and you want to throw us a 5-star review, hop over there and throw us that. We'd certainly love to have that. It helps our channel anytime somebody's looking for Arkansas Razorback content. It helps boost us up. Anytime somebody shares, engages, any of that stuff, throws us a like. It helps boost the channel through their algorithm on those various networks. Also available on Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you can think of to find your favorite podcast. HawgSports.com is just $1 for your first month or 30% off your first year. No promo code required. Be sure to go there and sign up. I want to thank Curtis Wilkerson for joining us. I want to thank you for all of your questions. We'll be back with you on Thursday, I believe. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.